Well, hello, friend. We are back for another Dear Dani question, and this one is a real treat because this one came with a picture. Now, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, I am going to do my very best to describe this beautiful room that the rest of us are going to be seeing. If you're inside of the collective, this is going to be hosted there, so you get to see the picture that accompanied the question. If you would like to have pictures like this to accompany questions or to accompany some of the lessons that you're hearing on the podcast, come and join us inside of the collective. This is a really fun opportunity for you to continue your learning, which is what is happening audibly. But when you can see the pictures that describe what it is I'm carefully trying to describe audibly, it puts a whole new level of understanding out there for you. Not only that, but you get weekly lessons delivered to you in short video format. You also get a live Q&A, a question and answer time. And if you can't make it live, you can always pre-submit your questions and I will answer them during our live Q&A time. And then we have once a month room edits, which is so much fun, and a complimentary gift for all of the members. I do one a month where we try to get your decorating needle moving as forward as not quickly as we can, but as strategically as we can. These are so much fun because the members submit a picture just like the one that you're about to see. They ask their question, they tell me the goal that they have for their space, and I do a little mock-up on the picture to give them directions for moving forward. It is so much fun to see the progress that is happening even in the last 6 months. These girls inside of the collective are action takers. They are no longer sitting on that Pinterest perfect fence saying, I'm continuing to pin my ideas. They are putting that inspiration into action. And if you're an action taker, I want you to come and join us too inside of the collective. You can do that by coming to figandfarmathome.com/the collective. Do you want a home that looks a bit more like you and a lot less like it did when you moved in 10 years ago? Are you tired of seeing picture-perfect homes flood your Instagram feed? Why do they seem to have their decorating act together when it takes you hours to choose a single pillow? Hey, I'm Dani, a self-taught home decorator who got tired of gathering home inspiration just to have it collect dust on the shelf. I've been transforming my home one space at a time, and it all started on a Goodwill budget while babies were sleeping. Here's the thing, friend. You don't need to have a design degree to create a home you're proud of. One that tells your story with your style, and you definitely don't need to have bags of money just waiting to be spent. You just need a little help and encouragement along the way. So let's be design besties, shall we? Every Tuesday I'll be sharing listeners' questions in my Dear Dani series, so you can make progress on your home, creating a house that you're proud to come home to. So go ahead and send me your question, then pull up a chair so we can chat friend to friend. And when you're ready to hang out real time, join the collective, my membership with weekly lessons, live Q&A sessions, complimentary room edits, and hand holding so you don't get lost along the way. All right, friend, let's dive into today's question. Let me read the question coming from Gabrielle. She says, Dear Dani, I've been listening to your podcast for a while and finally decided to send you my decor question. Okay, let's just stop there for 1 second. Gabrielle, thank you so much. I know that inviting me into your home, even if it's just in a picture form, even if it is me coming in to do a decorating SOS call, if it's me coming literally across your threshold, I know that that can be a little bit intimidating because you have a problem, right? And you are wanting a little bit of help with it. And that can feel very vulnerable. So Gabrielle, thank you so much. It is my absolute joy and absolute honor to be invited into any of your homes, whether I'm helping you by answering a question or I'm helping you literally pick out product and arrange things in your room. It is my absolute delight, absolute joy. So thank you for trusting me. All right. So she keeps going and she says, I don't love my dining room set and I want to get a new one. I'm open to keeping the table and getting new chairs or vice versa, or just getting new both. I have no idea what will look good in here, or if I should just even keep this rug that keeps snagging, or do I get a new one? I'm just lost. I love everything else in this room except the dining room set and the rug. Please help. I'm open to tips you have for the rest of the room too. Okay. All right. Well, let's dive in. And if you are Again, if you are going to be watching this inside of the collective, you get to see this beautiful room that Gabrielle is struggling with. And if you are listening on the podcast, let me do my very best to describe what it is I'm seeing. So we are in what looks to be a very traditional home. There are dark wood floors, and this is a closed dining room, meaning there are three walls. One looks like an entrance maybe into a living room or kitchen. I'm not entirely sure. The other wall has a door, and I'm not sure where that goes to because, again, I just met Gabrielle just like you did. But what we have here, if I'm looking to my left, I see what looks like a built-in hutch. It is floor to ceiling. On the bottom is a lower bank of cabinets that are painted in a creamy white. It looks to be the same white that the rest of the millwork and even the coffered ceiling is painted. And then there is an upper. And now that upper is not directly sitting on top of the lower cabinet. It is raised probably 15 or so inches. The front of those upper cabinets are glass panes, and you can see in the back of that, there is a beautiful gray wallpaper that looks like it has some white buds. It almost reminds me of a cherry blossom. The handles on here, the hardware on here are brass, and you can see the door knobs, and then you can see some handles as well. Now, looking opposite the windows, there is a large bank of windows, but looking opposite the windows is a gray wall, and it's a deep gray. It's not quite charcoal. There is maybe from this vantage point, it looks like a purpley undertone, but it presents more gray than purple. And she has framed out wall treatments that remind me of a traditional home. If you can think of picture frames, and there's some on the bottom level, and then there's some up above, and inside of those, she has a mural. And this is gorgeous. This is so much fun. The mural looks antique, though I'm sure it is not. And it's of one scene, but it's cut into 3 sections. And so you can see the landscape where there is what looks like to me, Eastern Washington, but maybe even like Colorado, maybe even Texas. It doesn't look very hilly or mountainy. It looks more like hill, and you can see some hills in the distance. You can see lots of deciduous trees in distance and even up close. And then there's a river running through it. And in that river, it looks like maybe those are cows, I think, or horses. I can't quite tell, but there's livestock in the middle of the river. Gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. Hanging from the coffered ceiling is a Sputnik chandelier that is brass. Sputnik chandeliers, you can Google what that looks like so you can get a full, good representation of that. They are more modern, so it has a really nice juxtaposition for this, what looks like a very traditional home. Okay, what I see here too is the dining room table is wood-washed gray, and it's anchored on top of an area rug that is lighter in foundation, but it has some grays and some browns and some creams. A lot of the colors that are actually within the mural. Let me show you this other picture. Oh, and the dining room chairs are Parson chairs. They are kind of a creamy Parson chair with black legs. Okay, here's the other view so you get the full picture of what I was talking about when I say there's a door and then the full bank of like the built-in hutch. And then what you can see on the other wall, that third wall, is a full bank of windows. And she has curtains. The curtains are hung right at the ceiling. Beautiful millwork, crown molding at the top. And even you can see, if you look very closely, you can see some of the detail within the coffered ceiling. Gorgeous, really gorgeous, Gabrielle. Lovely. She has made this really very cohesive. And what I mean by that, what I'm seeing in the fine details, I'm seeing some of the electrical outlets and even the vent painted that same gray color. And so it's creating this really very, very lovely landscape for what is happening here in this room. Now, Gabrielle, I love everything about this space. Now, one of the things when I come into a room like this, my initial thought is, what's wrong with it? This looks gorgeous. This is, I don't want to say the envy of many people, but because we don't want to have envy, but it's absolutely stunning. And I hope you know that. I would imagine that the rest of your home is stunning too. But as I look through and have reread your question, I'm starting to now take a deeper dive into what it is that we can do in order to make this room really pop a little bit. Now, my question for you, without seeing anything else in your space, is this. What are the wood tones you have throughout your home? Now, I see the dark wood floor, and that's a good start, but what other wood tones do you have? Because if I go back to this other picture here, this wall, and even the tradition of some of the millwork that I'm seeing, even that little detail in your coffered ceiling, that feels very elevated to me. But the mural makes me immediately think French. And so my question for you is, do you have any light colored wood in your home? And how do you feel about adding a wood table, wood chairs that are French in style? You know the ones. They're rounded at the top, they're oval at the top, they have an upholstered back, an upholstered chair. These were, they're still very popular, but they kind of first came onto the scene a couple years ago. And then it has that, it's not raw wood table, but it is a light, more natural, neutral color. Very similar, probably a little darker than what this runner is on your table. But what is going to happen when you add some wood in here is it's going to warm up your space considerably. Anytime you have some wood elements, even some natural elements, it just brings in a layer of warmth that I don't think this table is doing for you. I would still do a round table because this size of room feels like this would just be the best size for it. So another round table. You could, if you needed to, go a little bit bigger. It looks like there's some space for that. And I would continue to do upholstered chairs. Now, if you didn't like the French style, that is fine. You could keep these chairs and bring in that lighter wood tone table, and that would still have the contrast. Now, but then there would be a problem. The problem would be these dark legs, and those dark legs sitting with such a light table might be a little bit eye-catching in the wrong way. Okay. All right, Gabrielle, this is fantastic. Now, what I would do with the rug actually looks like it is cohabitating really nicely and very cohesive with that mural. That mural is the inspiration piece for this entire room, in my opinion. What we bring in here and what we play with in the rest of the space should tie in nicely with what we see in that mural. Now, the other thing too, if we wanted to lean into tradition just a teeny tiny bit more, maybe we would transfer and change out that Sputnik chandelier for something that is just a little bit more opulent, not too opulent. We still want it to be an approachable room, but if you had a wood tone table, then maybe you could have a kind of a fun chandelier that's, again, not too fussy, but just a little bit more elevated than like a barrel shade chandelier. This one, of course, is screaming very modern. Now, what I don't know, Gabrielle, is what is happening in the rest of your home. So I don't know if you have that juxtaposition happening in the rest of the space, or even if this idea of let's lean into the French is going to be something that will work for you. But that's kind of what I see here if I were to move this forward. Now, let's talk about that rug really quickly. I do love an area rug in the dining room. It definitely anchors the space and it makes it a little bit more elevated. Now, this is a camp where people, they love it or they hate it, but you have what looks like a nice foundation in terms of size for this area rug. So in my mind, my thought is, yes, let's keep one similar sized. Is it this rug? Not necessarily, but I think it could work. This is the last thing I would do in here, because what I would imagine is going to happen is that area rug, if you bring in the lighter wood tone table and you have those really lovely French chairs, what I would imagine is going to be happening is that the contrast between that rug and the chairs is going to be a little bit too similar. So we might want to play with that just a little bit, and you have probably space now to do a darker rug, just a little bit, because what we don't want is heavy dark on the floor, heavy carpet or heavy area rug, and then a deep color of your wall. But we can have just a little bit darker of a color rug, and I would do a flat rug as well, but we're gonna pull our colors from the mural. We want to make sure that whatever is happening there is the inspiration and the focal point here, without, of course, it competing too much with the gray of the walls. It gets a little tricky. Okay, how are we doing, Gabrielle? Okay, the other thing I noticed too, you have such a lovely backdrop in these upper cabinets. I love that wallpaper. I think it's really very fun that you have the wallpaper there as well as this mural here. And it says to me that you are, you're not afraid of, I mean, this is pattern mixing. You're mixing a mural, which is like an artwork, but it's still very much like wallpaper. You're mixing those two patterns. And so that takes courage for you to do that. I think it's done really well. But here's what I would do, because what I can't necessarily see is the glassware that is in your cabinets. And I don't want to add things just to add things, but when we have open shelves like that, one thing that's really, really fun is when you have pieces, intentional pieces within your cabinetry that allow not only for you to be able to see them, but for you to be able to act as a backdrop for the things that are in front. We recently did this in Susan's hutch. You've heard about Susan on the podcast. We've been working slowly through her home, and we're doing this in her hutch. And the thing that we added to the back of that was just simple white platters. And I would do white. I wouldn't bring in any other color here because we do want to keep that elevation happening, and white instantly elevates. But one thing that you could do is you could have a platter in the back of a couple, we would want a couple elements of white, and then you could have that glassware sitting in front. We could also think about having white bowls or a collection of white vases or something else to draw our eye up, because right now, as far as I can tell, there's only glassware on the bottom, which is not a bad thing. But I do think we could probably have a few more pieces in order to style this well. Now, in terms of this bar, I absolutely love it. Let me go to this picture over here because we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to try to make it a little bigger. Yep, okay, there we go. Okay. One thing, here's what I see on that bar. Now, when I was describing this to the rest of you, we have an upper and we have a lower, and in between the upper and the lower cabinet is a mirror and space for what looks like a serving area. This is so much fun. I would absolutely be delighted to have that in my dining room. One thing that we can think about here, Gabrielle, is we can think about creating mini vignettes here. And one of the things that I would think we have, so we have on the far left, we have what looks like a cement pineapple. And then we have a wood round. We have a clear carafe, like a liquor bottle, maybe some cups. We have a bowl of limes, and then we have a couple bottles of amber drink. I'm not entirely sure which one that is or which ones those are. And then on the far left, or the far right, we also have a little urn with a topiary. Now, this also, Gabrielle, is an indicator to me that is making me wonder, like, are we going French here just a little bit? Because this looks a little bit French to me. Okay, one thing I would do is I would take out the topiary and I would put that aside for a second, and then I would move the liquor over to the right. Right next to it, I would have a little riser, and that little riser I would have probably be white because I do want it to reflect well in that mirror and also be a contrast to the brown liquor. And then on that little riser is where I might have the little bowl of lemons. Maybe I would have my little, what is that thing called? I am not the barkeeper at my house. My husband is, but you know, the little turn pourer, you know, it has a handle and the little, it measures the the amount of liqueur you want in there. That would be a really cute little vignette, but it elevates it just a little bit. So now you have a height variation within in this little segment. And then at the base of that, right underneath where you have, right underneath your little riser, your cake stand, whatever you're going to use as a riser, I would take these little glassware and I would put them right at the base. So now you have a sweet little vignette that says, hey, I'm a party waiting to happen. Here we are. And it's all kind of, I don't want to say clumped. It is very intentionally styled, but it's all right there. The other thing I would do over here, I love this little wood, I don't want to call it a charger cutting board. And this is really pretty. And I do wonder, here's my question for you, because we have brown on one side and the little brown bowl of limes and now brown over here, I would just be curious to look to see what that looks like turned up on its side and leaned against the mirror. I would just be curious to see about that. Does it balance it out with a little bit of warmth in the brown? Or does it feel like it is clogging this beautiful reflection? If it is okay sitting in the back, I would position that pineapple right in front, and then I would bring in a couple other little, maybe a couple other little glassware, stemware, maybe even some little plates so that you're ready to have like what looks like appetizers, and that I would set right in front of it. Conversely, here's what I would do, Gabrielle, that kind of going with that same route, I would move this cutting board over a little bit to the right, and then I would bring in some really fun like appetizer ware and make this its own vignette. So what I'm picturing are little appetizer plates. I'm picturing white with a gold rim. The reason I'm picturing that is because you have this beautiful brass sitting right on top of that little, I'm going to call it a charger, sitting on top of that wood round. And then you maybe even have some cocktail napkins that are laying out and they're ready to go. You can even have a little cup that has some cutlery that is ready to be utilized when you have like your charcuterie board or your guests over. And that can be just a really sweet little vignette that says, we are open for entertainment. We're ready to have, we're ready to host the fun stuff happening in here. That's what I would do in here. Where would I put the topiary? The topiary, actually, I think I might put in the top in one of these glass cabinets. I think that's where I would put the topiary, and then I'd bring in a few more greens as well. And then, of course, on the center of your table, I love having a little plant. This looks really lovely, and I love the dough bowl on here. It brings in another area of that warmth, but a little plant could be really fun. And I do see that you like plants. It looks like you have a prayer plant here. And if I go back to the other picture, maybe you have what looks like a fiddly fig, or I can see that in the reflection. Gabrielle, you have such a lovely space here. And I would just encourage you to play around, or to be thinking about the wood tones and how that might accentuate and bring in a little bit of warmth into your space where there is just teeny tiny little pieces within the wood dough bowl and the wood charger. See what happens when you bring in the idea of a wood table. And if too light of that wood is going to be problematic, then you can always go darker. But I would stick with a round, and I would stick with upholstered chairs, something that is light in nature, similar to this, maybe even a little bit creamier than this. Does look creamy, but it looks a little bit like it has a little bit of a brown undertone to it. All right, Gabrielle, thank you so much again for submitting your question, for submitting a picture, and how much fun is that to give you a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of praise for a job well done, first of all, but also a few ideas for thinking forward. If you would like, of course, extra help with that, I am always here ready to meet with you over a Decorating SOS call or inside of the live Q&As in the collective. All right, until next time, I'll see you soon. Friend, thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you taking part of your busy day to tune in and listen. If you enjoyed the show, chances are someone else will too. And you know what? The best way for them to find it is by leaving a review. Doing that changes that pesky little algorithm that Apple Podcast has that allows my show to be seen by others. And if you can take 30 seconds to leave a review, it would make me beam ear to ear. I appreciate it. Until next time, I'll see you soon.